Greater gliders are nocturnal, so their aeronautical feats usually go unnoticed, but they can glide for 100 metres and execute 90-degree turns.
They are an absolutely adorable, super fluffy little creature that kind of looks a bit like a Muppet with big fluffy ears and big fluffy body and a super long tail. And then these like sharp claws that help it grip onto branches.
For all its cuteness, the greater glider is in big trouble. I'm told its numbers have dropped 80% in just 20 years. This year, it's been listed as endangered.
They used to be common in forests from Queensland to Victoria, but with every passing year, their numbers dwindle.
They're very different to what my natural assumption was going to be as like a sugar glider, right?
Yeah.
They're really different.
Sugar gliders have a lot more energy because of their diet. They have a high energy diet, and it means that they can just whiz around the forest like kind of crazy little gremlins.
Yeah.
But these guys, because they eat eucalypts, which are not good food, they don't have a lot of energy. So they're very slow and deliberate, a lot like a koala.
This is Gwen. She's one of 8 greater gliders at the Australian National University. They're about to be released into the wild after a 6-month study into their eating habits.
Just how bad are things for the species right now?
Things are really bad for greater gliders.
Professor David Lindenmayer is a world-leading forest ecologist whose passion for greater gliders goes back decades.
The greater glider used to be the most common animal that you would see when you went spotlight surveying. You would see it everywhere, and you'd see dozens of them in a night. And as time's gone on, we've seen how steeply that animal has declined, the fastest of any of the species that we've worked on.
The population has been devastated by bushfires, logging, habitat destruction and climate change.
They're very sensitive to how the climate's changing. They don't like high temperatures, especially when they're foraging at night time. And then during the day, the high temperatures can also cook animals in their nest hollows.
With this in mind, ANU has joined forces with World Wildlife Fund and Greening Australia to provide high-tech nesting boxes.
I've affectionately been calling these nest boxes Goldilocks boxes. Not too hot, not too cold, but just that perfect temperature.
But while all this might make a difference, David says they're just stopgap measures.
We need to stop logging native forests. We need to stop land clearing. These animals can't survive when you start clearing their habitat. And we also really seriously need to do something about climate change.
Volunteers who have been conducting their own nighttime surveys recently found 60 gliders in areas targeted for logging. The Victorian government has said it will phase out the logging of native forests, but not for another 7 years.
Australia is the mammal extinction capital of the world.
Federal Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek recently announced a target of no new extinctions in the next 10 years.
This new plan sets more ambitious targets, and it's got really specific actions for how we're going to achieve those targets.
Fact is, forestry is largely state-controlled, and in New South Wales, the Forestry Corporation faces multiple prosecutions for damaging koala habitat.
Well, we do have to work with state and territory governments, that's for sure, because it's the states and territories that have legislative responsibility for managing forestry. But I think we can do that cooperatively.
It's night time now. We're on our way to the forest to release the gliders back to where they came from.
After more than an hour's drive, we arrive.
Let's go.
Once the team reaches the trees, the greater gliders are released, one at a time.
Got this.
And finally, the time comes to return Gwen to the tree she left 6 months before.
You're about to release her back into the unknown. Is there any part of you that is worried about what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. I think she's got a really uncertain future. So this forest, there's logging happening, and so she could lose her home, literally. I mean, there's nothing I can do, but I also desperately want to help, and I hope that showing these guys to the world, maybe people will care and have a think about, we have to make some decisions in terms of what's important to us, and hopefully people will decide that Gwen's important.
Such an interesting animal, aren't they? And so nichey, as you mentioned there, the fact they occupy this strange little world in the treetops where they're eating just a very precise kind of eucalypt. And they don't fly, they glide. But it's these animals that get so squeezed when that human interaction changes things. It's the same with koalas, where when you occupy something that's very narrow and nichey, any little alteration just throws your whole world out.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is that these gorgeous little animals, they can't really help themselves because a lot of the factors that you're talking about there really work against them. They overheat. They have such a specific diet. They're clumsy. So,
Owls find them delicious.
Owls find them delicious as one of their main predators. So it's time for humans now to try and help because otherwise, as Tanya Plibersek said there, we're the mammal extinction capital of the world. Now, a full statement from Vic Forest can be found on our website.